Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. Mountaineer in Ireland are delighted to be hosting the Fei Sheehy Challenge talk as part of our 2021 Zooming Around the Mountains. Just a few things before we get started. I just want to make you aware that this is being recorded for those who are interested and couldn't make it this evening. Also, there's a lot in attendance tonight, so if you have a question for the guys, if you could use the Q&A box on your panel function at the bottom, and we will try and answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to hand you over to Sinead Keogh and Jared Sheehy from the Naisliafta Hill Walking Club, who are going to talk to us about the Fei Sheehy Challenge.
Thanks very much, Ruth. And thanks everybody for coming. It's great to have so many people in attendance. So the way we're going to work this presentation is I'm going to bookend it. So I'm going to start and do the first couple of slides, and I'll finish out the last few slides, and Gerald do the bit in the middle. So we're kind of going to do the presentation or present it in two parts. So we're going to look at it from the perspective of an organizational point of view, and from a participant's point of view. So I'm the secretary of the Naisliafta Hill Walking Club. So I'm kind of involved partially at the organisation end of things, and I'm also a past participant of the Fei Sheehy Challenge. So I'm going to talk a little bit about being a participant and preparation and things that you might need to think of if you were planning on doing it, because I'm aware and I'm conscious that there's people probably tuning in who have done it before, who might be thinking about doing the challenge in the future, and people from various clubs and who are on committees in clubs who might be thinking of organising a challenge hill walk for their club. So kind of we're going to try and do a rounded kind of a presentation. So I just want to start by telling you a little bit about what the Fei Sheehy Challenge is and where actually the name came from and who Fei is. So the Fei Sheehy Challenge is the brainchild of Ger. In 2012, he lost his little daughter Fei, and he turned to hill walking for some solace. And then in 2014, he set up the Fei Sheehy Challenge. So you can move to the next slide, please, Ruth. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, yeah, perfect. So logistically, the challenge is run across 3 consecutive days, and on each day, participants will do a crossing of a mountain range. So on the Friday, so first of all, the challenge is generally in August. So for anybody doing it this year or thinking of registering to do it this year, I know a lot of people have already registered near capacities. As far as I know, it's on the 13th, 14th and 15th of August. So it's generally around August. On the Friday, the crossing is on the Comeragh Mountains. So it's about 35 kilometers long and 1,400 meters in height, in elevation gain. On the Saturday is the Galty crossing. So crossing the entire Galty Mountains, that's 30 kilometers in length and 1,700 meters in height gain. And then on Sunday, the final day is the Knockmealdown Mountains. And that's about 30 kilometers in length and 1,100 meters in elevation gain. So overall across the 3 days, for anybody that does the 3 days, it's about 95 kilometers, covering about 4,200 meters of elevation gain. So it's quite the challenge for anybody that wants to do the 3 days. Now there's an option to do 1 day, 2 days or 3 days. So for example, somebody could register for 3 days and they might just do 1 day or 2 days, depending on how they're feeling, depending on how the weather is, any niggles or anything like that, etc., etc. So that's basically kind of the numbers behind it. So the next one, please. Thanks. So this slide here just gives you an idea of kind of just the variety of where the mountain ranges are, and kind of the lengths there. So next slide, please, Ruth. Thank you. So the routes they're 3 linear walks. So they're basically an A to B. Okay. So the first day you're going from Monrood to Clonmel. So basically you turn up in the morning in Clonmel, you register for the day, and then buses are organised to take all of the participants to the start at Monaghan. So you start there and you walk in a linear route all the way to Clonmel. On the second day, you park up in Anglesborough, and you the bus takes you to Cahir, and then you walk back to Anglesborough. So basically you're leaving your car at the end line, your bus to the start, and then you walk all the way. So it's a linear route. The indicative route is provided. So basically when you register, a GPX route is sent out to each participant. However, and this, I'm sure most people who've read up on the Fei Sheehy challenge will know at this stage, it's self-navigation. So all participants are required to be able to navigate themselves. So there's no leader here. There's no leader leading all of the walkers. Everybody can do it at their own pace. Another point to note is that there's no checkpoints. So anybody that has done any of the other challenge walks around Ireland, like the Man Turks Walk or anything like that, you'll know that you have to hit certain checkpoints along the day. For this challenge across the 3 days, you don't have to hit any specific checkpoints. So basically, you're given a GPX route, you know the start, you know the finish line. It's up to you as an individual to mark out your own route through the mountain range. So I think, and we'll talk a little bit about it in a little while, from an environmental point of view, I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of not everybody's taking the exact same route across the mountains. Now, of course, what does happen during the day is groups of people fall into line with each other, and they might end up walking in little groups, and you might make up some friends and things like that. But generally, people are walking on their own, or they might be in little groups. As I said, participants are bused to the start. So a consideration for the organisers at the beginning was that we had to have consideration for parking at the finish of each walk. So when we were thinking about, okay, what is going to be the walk route? Where are we going to register people on the morning? Where are people going to finish? We had to think about, okay, if we have, for example, 50 participants and maybe 30 or 40 cars, we needed to think about where those 30 or 40 cars going to park. Next one, please, Ruth. Thank you. So in terms of environmental impact, as I said already, it's an individual route choice. So not everybody's following the exact same route. It's linear, so it's an A to B. Numbers are limited. So I think there's a max of 75 people that are allowed to register for the challenge. However, on any one particular day, there's never more than 50 people on the mountain. We adhere to Mountaineering Ireland's policy and guidelines for organised events in Ireland's mountains. Therefore, we feel that there's little or no environmental impact because not everybody's following the same route. So, and also, again, I mentioned it already, it's a linear route, so people aren't going back on themselves. So everybody's only trotting on the one part of the ground at any one particular point. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Ger here for the next section.
Okay, obviously safety is very, very important. So Ruth, if you just maybe go on to the next one there. Like Sinead said already, like it's like everybody signs a declaration when they're registering that they can navigate and that they have the skills required to get from A to B. It's down to self-reliance. The other thing that you have to bring, and it probably does come into safety, is like you have to bring a level of fitness with you. If you're going to do 1 day, if you're going to do 2 days, if you're going to do 3 days, I know 3 days is an unknown for a lot of people, but I'm like, there are lots of clubs out there that organize, walks in other countries, abroad or whatever, and like people might walk for 5 days, but like mentally, because these are 3 challenges or whatever, they might consider that it's tougher, but it's not really. Like you just have to pace yourself, and you just have to what will I say? Once you pace yourself, you'll get there. From a safety point of view, most attendees would be known. Like I would know them, or other members in the club would know them. There's very, very few people that would register for this that you wouldn't have met before at some other challenge hill walk, and you have a fair idea of how that if they can finish other ones, like that they'll be probably able to do this as well. We have a health and safety strategy, and that sets out all the details, and participants are required to read it. And each day then the participants are given a contact number for a person to ring, just in case something goes wrong. Like if they need to come off, like anything can happen, we understand that. But like most of the people that, to date, some people might have to come off. They might have just, got their fitness level wrong. They might have been felt well on the day. So they just ring the person that's on the ground and say, look, I'm coming off here, and just come and collect me. And that's what we've done. There's never any difficulty like that. Participants, they're required to check in and check out every day. So like we wait until everybody's off the mountain, and then we pack up and go and get ready for the next day again. So the next one there, Ruth. Now, COVID presented us with a little bit of a predicament this year, or in 2020, because we didn't expect anybody to get on a bus. And with the way the restrictions were going, we just got this window. We were just really, really lucky. It was the only challenge walk that went ahead last year. And we got this window, and what we decided to do was, like normally we would, meet in Anglesborough, and we would bus people to Care. So what we did was we just created different routes, looped routes, so that people could park, go, do the equivalent in distance, in height gain, as they would over, the full range of the mountain, and just walk from and back to their cars. We did that on each of the range. We just did a loop walk each day, and the distance worked out at around the same, but the height gain worked out a little bit more. So it was tougher. It's new, and a lot of people were very, very happy with it, because like everybody that does a crossing, it's particularly the same route all the time. And like there's lots of lovely glens in the Galties, that you're up and down into to get the height gain, like Black Rock and Downree and all those. And like lots of walkers had never been there before. So it was great. And like if we're forced to do that again this year, then we probably, what people can actually do is, they don't have to go the same direction. They can do it in reverse. It's the same height gain, and look, you're seeing the route from a completely different angle again by doing it in reverse. So that's what we did. Like we just adapted. We just said, like, what can we do to let it go ahead? So putting on the event, like it cost a few bob to put it on. So what we normally do is, you just push it on there, Ruth. It costs about 1,500 between everything, between insurance, between medals, our hats, our buffs, our certificates, buses, refreshments. If they're not sponsored, they normally are. But like there might be overheads, but like that's the approximate cost of putting the event on every year. To date, we've been able to raise that money outside of participants' registration fees. So any of the money that participants pay, since we've been doing this over the last 7 or 8 years, has been given to the charities or the voluntary organizations. So like I would have people every year that would give me a check for 100, 200, 250, or even more sometimes, or even like fivers and tenors, and I just keep collecting it. And like over the year, you'll end up with 1,500 euros. So it's not a difficult thing to do. Like people are very, very helpful. They understand that it's challenge hill walking for good. You're helping other people out. It's not for profit. It's not for personal gain. It's just somewhere else. So people like that. They do it for other people basically. The insurance is a standalone cost because we don't actually organize it under the Mountaineering Ireland policy. Lots of clubs that organize challenges, they organize it under it comes under the insurance that they have with the club. It's just the way I set it up initially. So like, and I've kept it at that. I've never had difficulty getting insurance or getting a quote for insurance. The people that do the insurance for these events, particularly, when there's no climbing involved, when there's no water activities involved, it's the same underwriters that are going to be looking at it all the time anyway. And once you have everything in place, and once they trust you and they know what they're doing, it's pretty okay getting a quote. I haven't had difficulty yet anyway. So that's that particular page. So yeah, donations from individuals and businesses. I said, like, you know, people will do it. You know, they'll just, or something will happen. You know, like you might do a favor for somebody during the year or whatever, and they might say, well, look, I'll fix you up for that. Say, no, just make a donation. And it just like all small little, you know, every fiver counts. You know? Since the outset, we would have had support from Kinetica, the nutrition, and from View Ranger. You know, like the View Ranger give us free credits for every participant every year since we've been doing it. Kinetica have supported us with, you know, protein bars, protein drinks, energy bars, things like that. And, you know, like we would have had different people sponsoring. Have a free draw for anybody that registered. So we would have, like Zurich Life last year, they would have sponsored like 2 €50 vouchers for different, we'd say for Jackson Sports, for Landers Tralee, and Jackson Sports themselves sponsor Landers Tralee. You know, they were, you know, they sponsored, you know, prizes for the draw as well. And you know, that's, you know, again, it's just like, if you don't ask, you won't get. So like, you just have to keep going back every year and asking for it, and be a little bit persistent. So since we started, we've raised over 48,000, and that's gone to 23 different beneficiaries, you know, volunteer organizations and charities. There's some of them are listed there. In 2017, we decided to just kind of pull back some of the money, and we just created this Mend the Mountain Fund. So we keep 50% of the money since 2017, and we distribute then the balance to the nominated charities. So like we've over 10,000 in the kitty for that already, like, you know. So it's just another, like, so it's going to be needed in the years ahead. So best to just think about it now, you know. And next one, the administration of it. It starts in like November, even though it's not on until August. But if you just move it there, Ruth. Like you close the website, and then you're kind of, you know, in maybe August, September, and then you open it again for registrations in November. You update the website, update, you know, Twitter, Facebook, you know, promote it in places like Mountain Views. Contact all the previous participants, say, look, it's on again, registration is open. Maybe give them a chance to register before you open it up to everybody else. And in 2015, we actually brought in what we called the All Ireland Hill Walking Club Championships. So basically what that means is that we have that lovely trophy there on the left, and a club can enter, and if you're a member of a club, you get 1 point for each day that you walk. So if somebody does 3 days, they get 3 points. If somebody does 1 day, they get 1 point. And at the end of the 3 days or whatever, you just tally all the points and see who has the most. If it was a draw, you'd probably just go back to see who did the most 3 days, you know, and work from there. And like it's been fairly competitive since 2015, because like Peaks won it in 2015, they won it in 2016, and then the Wayfarers Hiking Club won it in 17 and 18. Peaks took back again in 19 because they didn't want to see the treble happening. And in 2020, Douglas and St. Finbar Scouts won it. You know, and they did really, really well. Like, they just threw the kitchen sink at it. They got a lot of people to do 1 day. A lot of people that hadn't done a challenge before just turned up just for this, to try and win this. And they did, you know, and they did really, really well. And it was great for them. It was great to see them, and it was great for everybody else. And it's great to see it moving around as well, that it's not the same club that do it all the time. Like, I would have contacted everybody in 2015, all the clubs in Ireland, all the clubs in, you know, that are part of the Ramblers Association in the North, and told them about this. So that's why, like I just said, like it's all of Ireland. So any club can enter it. I never give out the information beforehand to say, look, X club has X number of members in it. It's nobody knows until it's over, like, you know, who's going to win it, because except, you know, I know, because I know what clubs they're in and who's doing what. I'd have a fair idea of who's going to win it, you know, so that's it. Insurance, again, like that's, you know, it is an issue, but it's manageable insofar as, you know, once you have the declaration signed by everybody that's participating, the insurance company are happy. Once they trust you that you're doing everything right, they also insist that anybody that you're dealing with, like somebody, like we get the use of the field in Anglesborough for our parking, and then when they come off the mountain, the ladies from Peaks Mountaineering Club, they'd have with their tea and coffee and Margot's porter cake and, you know, different, you know, sweet things like that. And like, I have to get onto the farmer to say, look, have you got public liability insurance? Because we have it. And like, if he confirms that he has it, then that's fine. And it's the same with using Hillview Sports Centre, or, you know, we used to use a hotel in Clonmel because they had the parking as well. And, you know, the hall in Ballyporeen. So, like the buses, we didn't have to use them this year, but the community, the refreshments, like the girls in Peaks, Martha and Margot, and a few more of the girls, like they organise that part of it. And, you know, if there's, you know, if we need volunteers for anything in particular, do that. And like I said, like you just do the medals and the certificates as well. And say I would contact, you know, people, you know, like I try and spread it around. Like we don't go back to the same, we don't support the same people every single year, our voluntary organization. And I just look for ones that are kind of relevant, maybe relevant to what we're doing, where we are, the location, keep it local. And, you know, you contact them and say, look, do they want to be a beneficiary? You know, you just can't say like, we're giving you money, you know, because you don't know whether they want to be part of it. Like, it's just a courtesy to ask them and contact and say, look, do they want money or not? And then you kind of look for the donations, agree with the beneficiaries, contact them, and afterwards, when it's over, then just do bank transfers or bank drafts or whatever, and that's it. And I'll hand it back now to Sinead.
Thanks, Ger. So just to kind of round up what Ger was saying there, I mean, for any clubs that are thinking of organising an event like this, administratively, like it's heavy enough administratively towards around the time of the event, but I think once the first year, second year are over with, then everybody knows what they need to do for the next couple of years. So I don't think it's anything that a club should shy away from in terms of organising. I have to say one thing, and Gerald backed me up on this, people are great to put up their hand and say, look, if you need a hand with anything, or if I can do this, or if I can do that, we're more than happy to help. And again, as we said before, there's no checkpoints as well, which means that we have less volunteers to get for the challenge, in terms of it's less difficult. You know, we don't have to get volunteers to head up the mountains early in the morning and be prepared and check in participants and all that sort of thing. So that's just one thing in terms of administration. So just to talk a little bit about the participants. So I picked this photo. I was looking for photos that I could put up about the presentation, and I always think that photos tell 1,000 words, you know, and seeing people coming off the mountains and smiling, I think that says a lot about challenging hill walking in general, and in particular the Fei Sheehy challenge.
And that was day 3.
That was day 3. Look at that for smiles. So anybody thinking of doing 1 or 2 days, you know, push yourself to day 3, and that's what you look like when you're coming off the Knockmeal Downs. So who are the kind of people that do this? So I was a past participant, so I would have done this my first year. Actually, I did it in the inaugural year in 2014. So I would have been doing an awful lot of hill walking. I would have been kind of going to the Alps, doing multi-day hikes and things like that. So a lot of the participants would be hill walkers that would be generally out with clubs a lot, or out on their own, and self-navigators, as that's a requirement. We've had people from the age of 16 all the way up to 71. So just in terms of numbers, so it's grown quite a lot since 2014. So in 2014, we had about 31 participants. And in 2020, the year just gone by, we had about 53 participants. And 20 of those were actually new to the challenge, which is, it's always nice to get new people in to do challenges like this. So just to give a bit of stats on last year, 30 people did the 3 days, 4 people did the 2 days and 19 people did 1 day. So as you can see, there is quite a number of people who take on the 3 days of the challenge. One individual has completed all 3 days every year since 2014. So Stephen Ford, I see you're online there, take a bow. And we also have one participant who has summited Everest and done the Fei Sheehy challenge. So Albert, it's very, very, very good to have somebody who's done everything. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about kind of planning and preparation for an event like this. So this is the group photo that Ger took on day 1 and Comeragh 2014. So I'm there off there to the right hand side in the blue t-shirt. So in terms of planning and preparation for it, I guess one thing is your self-navigation. You have to be able to navigate. I went actually with there was a group of people, I think there was, in BC 1, 2, 3, 4, there was about 5 or 6 of us who decided to do it together. So we all stayed in a hostel together and to do the 3 days of the challenge. In terms of kit, you need lots of kit, not lots of kit, but you need to be thinking about what happens if you get quite wet on day 1, if your boots or your trail runners or whatever you're wearing on day 1 gets quite wet or soggy or whatever, or if you damage your boots on day 1, have you a backup for day 2 and day 3? So in terms of somebody doing the 2 or 3 days, you need to start thinking about your gear like that. Fitness wise, in terms of preparation, I would have been doing a lot of challenge hill walking around that time. I maybe would have gone out on a Saturday or Sunday. It's no harm to do 2 days back to back just to get used to kind of doing a long day of a Saturday, for example, trying to recharge the batteries and get back up on a Sunday morning and do another long hill walk. So that's good kind of preparation for it. So I had done an awful lot of preparation for this event. So day 1 on the Comeragh went well. Then we headed to the Galties on day 2. That's the next photo. Ruth. Yeah, there we are. And even though that started off as a good day, it got quite wet when we were up in the Galties, and actually navigation got quite difficult. Now we weren't using GPX routes back then. We were using old-fashioned map and compass. And I remember we were looking for Temple Hill and it was quite foggy and quite wet and I was absolutely exhausted. And I remember the fog just cleared and we could see Temple Hill in the distance and we're in the completely wrong mountain. So you just have to factor in these kind of things happen. So we made our way around to Temple Hill and finished. And I just remember on that day, and I was really, well, I felt I was quite fit at this stage. I had an awful lot of training done for it. I was coming off the mountain that day and I was absolutely exhausted. I'd never felt tiredness like it. And it was the first doubt in my mind. And I was thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come back for tomorrow. So you can move on to the next slide, please, Ruth. And there's the group on day 3. As you can see, it's dwindled a little bit and I'm not in it. So I actually didn't get out on day 3. I was just... It wasn't a mental thing, it was a physical thing. I was absolutely exhausted. And even though I had done all the training and all the preparation and everything, I ended up I felt not well in myself that I ended up going to the doctor the following Monday. And I said, you're gonna have to do blood tests. I wasn't able to finish this damn challenge and I had all of the preparation and everything done. But as it turned out, I had gotten anemia. So I had done an awful lot of training, but probably not eating enough red meat and things like that. So there was actually something wrong with me. But just to be aware of things like that when you're preparing for something like this, you really have to take a well-rounded, holistic view of making sure that everything is right. So I did come back in 2017. This was 2017, and I did the Galty crossing that year. And it wasn't that the Fei Sheehy, the challenge didn't put me off or anything like that, but I kind of got into other events and I ended up doing other challenges that time of the year and things like that. So you can move on to the next slide, please. So this is a certificate that you can get at the end of the 3 days. Now there's a certificate for completion of 2 days and a certificate for the completion of 1 day. So what do you have to do, or what kind of preparation can you do for getting a certificate like this? So next slide, please, Ruth. So I guess the first thing is, if you register, is try and get your accommodation sorted early enough. So you'll want to get accommodation that's quite central to the 3 mountain peaks and to the 3 start and finish lines. And then in terms of, actually one thing about accommodation as well is, we found, or when I've been doing it and doing other events like this, I always find actually hostels are probably better, because you can bring your own food. And sometimes if it's late in the evening when you're getting home and you can't get out for food or anything like that, you can just, you're in control of your own food in your own, so you can use the kitchen to prepare your own food. And particularly for breakfast, it's a very early start. You probably won't have breakfast in a hotel or anything like that. So I always find hostels are actually quite good for events like these. In terms of food, for people who are thinking about doing events like these, variety is key. So you might be doing a lot of hill walking yourself, maybe every Sunday or every second Sunday, and you generally bring the same foods out with you every Sunday because they agree with your stomach and you feel that you have energy from them. If you're intending on doing 2 days or even 3 days, variety is really key, because you can get food fatigue or flavor fatigue from eating the same thing. So if you're packing the same food for Friday and for Saturday and for Sunday, by the time Sunday comes and you've had the same thing Friday and Saturday, you mightn't actually want that food. And the last thing you want is to be out on the mountain and not needing energy and not wanting the food that you've actually packed. A variety of sweet and savory is really important as well, because if you, for example, if you're somebody who kind of who thinks you need sugar as your way of getting energy for an event like this, and pack loads of sweets, trust me, I've done it, and you get furry mouth, it's called, and I can tell you it's not nice. And you'll get sores in your mouth, and then by day 3 you might be able to actually get any food into, or you'll be on purees at that stage. So try and pack some sweet and savory, and salt is very important as well, because you want to keep up your salt levels, because you might be sweating a lot over the 2 or 3 days depending on what the weather's like. In terms of water, it's important to carry enough water for the day, but that actually what's even more important is the morning before you take off to do the challenge, maybe get a litre and a half of water into you. And again, when you're finished, if you get lots of water into you, then that will negate you having to carry as much water during the day, because sometimes it's kind of hard to judge how much water you're going to need during the day. In terms of kit, I mentioned it already, but your feet are incredibly important, particularly for anybody who's going to take on the 2 or 3 days. So if your feet get wet and get mangled and get sore, or you get blisters on day 1, then day 2 and day 3 are going to be incredibly difficult on you. So keeping your feet well is very important. So generally what I do, whether I'm wearing trail runners or hiking boots or whatever, is I'll slather. I'm particularly prone to blisters on my heels, so I find that prevention is definitely better than cure. So I generally put some tape over my heels where I know I might blister, and then I put Vaseline over my feet and then on with my socks. So I find that generally stops kind of any rubbing or anything like that. To keep your feet dry, sometimes the Galties can be kind of wet in places, just depends on what the weather's like coming up to the challenge. You might want gaiters just to keep out the wet, and having enough shoes for the 2 to 3 days. So if your feet get really, really wet on day 1, then you might want to wear those shoes or those boots on day 2 and day 3. You might want to just stuff some newspaper into them, pop them aside and have them dry enough for day 2 or 3. So maybe bring 2 pairs of shoes. Or for example, your feet might be a little bit more swelled on day 3 than they were on day 1. So you might want to bring a pair of trail runners or boots that are just that little bit bigger than the ones you would have worn or that you normally wear. That's just something to keep in mind. In terms of fitness, how long is a piece of string? I guess preparation is key in terms of fitness. For anybody who thinks I'm not going to be able to for 2 days or 3 days of the challenge, it's worth pushing yourself. Unless you try it, you're never going to know. And you can always register for 3 days. Do day 1, day do day 2 and just see how you're feeling for day 3. You may be up to it. I think key is back-to-back days. If you're going to try and do the 3 days, try and get out on the mountains on a Saturday and a Sunday. And again, just do the back-to-back days. Know what it feels like to get up the morning after a long hike and do another long hike. So I think that's generally good in terms of trying to get your fitness up for an event like this. And again, long hikes on your own as well, because it may turn out in the challenge that you'll end up navigating on your own and being on your own for the day. So just be aware that, you know, it's okay to be on the mountains on your own. So maybe train a little bit like that. Next slide, please. So if anybody is interested in doing the challenge or finding out any more about the challenge, you can contact us on Twitter at the Twitter handle at the Fei Sheehy. There's a Facebook page. We're quite active on Facebook, or you can contact your_sheehy@hotmail.com or nishlevta at gmail.com. And there's also a dedicated website to the challenge, and that's www.feisheehychallenge.net. And I think that's it. So we'd welcome any questions, or Ger, you might want to add anyone in there.
No, that's good. Just the last image there was, I think it was the first year we did it, and when I turned up in Ballyporeen on Sunday morning, these 2 lads were in the square, and I just thought it was a little bit weird to have the 2 mountain animals just in the square in Ballyporeen at 6:30 of a Sunday morning, but that's where that came from. There's a question there. How do you ensure everybody's off the mountain? Like, we basically wait, like, you know, we wait until everybody's off the mountain. You know, as people come in, they're ticked off the list, they go, you know, they leave or whatever, you know, like, it generally takes people, you know, between, you know, I suppose the average might be around 8 hours or whatever. But like, it could be 6, it could be 10 or whatever, and we just wait until everybody's off the mountain. If we think that there might be a problem, we'll ring the people. But we just, that's how we know they're off the mountain. You know, we just don't pack up and leave. So that's what happens there. Somebody else asked a question there about hostels or venues that are central. I suppose like Clonmel and Care are probably more central to the areas, you know, where you're going to have to be, like, because or even Mitchelstown, because you're going to be going to Clonmel on Friday, you're going to go to Anglesborough on Saturday, and normally then Ballyporeen on Sunday. So hostels like Ballymacarbery, I think there's one in Cashel, I think there's one in Ballyhowrah, but that's a bit away. There's one in Caheen as well. And some people camp out, you know, there's plenty campsites. Most people, I think, stay in trasses, and then people just stay in B&Bs and hotels, like, you know. So that's it. There's another question there. When you send GPXs, will that work on ViewRanger? Yeah, if people, you know, they can send them by email, you download them to your PC, and then you upload them to the ViewRanger that you have. You know, because like ViewRanger, it can be on your phone, or it can be in the on the PC. So it definitely works on. It definitely works. The ViewRanger with the DPX tracks. Anything else there?
Similar question about are the route challenges hard to navigate for novices, beginners to mountains?
Like if you've done a challenge before, like, you know, if you've done one day, you know, and if you go out on your own a lot and you get into trouble, like, the best way to learn how to navigate is to make mistakes or whatever, and, you know, learn from those mistakes so that it doesn't happen to you again. Sorry, look at the question again. Are the routes?
Sorry, Jared, it's like hard to navigate for novices, beginners to mountains.
Yeah, like novices, beginners, like try like, how would I say? you'd have to kind of you have to be able to do it on your own. You have to be able to navigate. It just like you can't just turn up and think that you can do this. You have to practice and practice. Like when you get the tracks, if you know how to download the tracks, if you know how to, you can do recce's, you can do whatever. If you've done other challenges, like if you've done one single day like the Man Perks or whatever, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to do 3 days of this if you just pace yourself, So
Based
that's
on
that.
that, Jared, like say the challenge, all going well, the challenge goes ahead for 2021. And at the moment, obviously everyone's aware that we're restricted to 5 kilometers, which means not a lot of people are up on the hills at the moment. What can people that are aiming to do the challenge this year, what can they do to stay fit around their local 5 kilometers to kind of be ready for this challenge?
Look, I'd be hopeful that we'd be okay by August. I suppose we were lucky to get away with it last year. Most of the people that have, there's very, very few places left in this, for registration. So most of the people that have registered know that they're going to do this like 8 months in advance. So like they're planning, they know that, when things open up, when they can go outside their 5K, when they go on a mountain, that, this is on their plan. They may not do the 3 days. They might say, well, look, I didn't have enough training. I was only able to do 1. If we can't run it in August, and if everything is shut down, we can kick it out to later in the year. We're not. It's not just one single day. We let people know in advance. If we have to do loop routes again, we'll get it done. Like it's just about. Let's say it's you kind of have to. As regards training, like there's no fitness like hill fitness, so you need to be going up and down. Walking around the roads on the flat isn't ideal or whatever. So you need some sort of mountain fitness. And like I said, most of the people that are doing this, the people that come back every year, they're doing that all the time. They're out at least once a week or whatever, or they might be in lockdown for 6 weeks and then it opens up, they're back out again. You wouldn't lose it. You wouldn't lose your fitness that quickly. So you're just kind of ticking over all the time.
Sure. Related controversial question, I know, but is a vaccine cert required to participate?
No, there was no requirement on it last year. So, but no.
No.
Well, if they look, no, I doubt very much. No, like we would, I can't see, administratively how we would actually manage that. I'd rather kick it down the road than go through that kind of stuff. But we have flexibility on it.
Yeah. So what time did the walk start in the morning, or is it just up to the?
No, the buses leave at 7 a.m. And this year, people could go, because we were starting, because we were starting and finishing in the same spot, people just came, they registered, they signed in, and then they just walked off, and then, they didn't have to wait for a bus. They just went and, they do it in their own time,
And what is the most difficult out of the 3 days? Is there a particular day you find the most difficult?
Jeannie, the first day in the Comeragh, it's just long. It's harder. It's hard ground. There isn't as much hiking in it, but it's a long walk. A mistake that a lot of people make on the first day is that everybody is buzzing. Everybody gets off the bus. Everybody goes off on a line, and they're following a pace that isn't their own pace. And suddenly they realize, oh my God, these people are going really, really fast, and you're trying to keep up with everybody else. But hiking on the Galties on the Saturday, and that's difficult as well. But we start fairly high on the last day, so there's again, it's just a long walk. I know Sinead was talking earlier on about trying the 1 day, trying the 2 days or whatever, but like most people, when they finish the 3 days, they just say, look, I just didn't feel like getting out of bed this morning. But once you start, like once you get on the bus and once you just put one foot in front of the other, you'll just get there. It's walking. I know it's difficult walking, but people will do that.
The company
just turn up and you'll do it.
Bit of moral support from the company you're with, I suppose, as well helps.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you're a solo walker, you'll fall in with a group or whatever, and that'll shorten the road.
There's one more question there. Are maps provided, and if not, what maps are recommended?
No, we give the GPX tracks. We're kind of what let's say. We'd expect that everybody would be able to use a GPS or view ranger, you know, when they're doing this, like, you know, or somebody in their group would be able to do that. You know, physical maps, no, no. You know, if you're using View Ranger, if you're using a GPS or whatever, you just upload them to your device, and you know they're there, and you have your maps on your phone or on your GPS. We can do PDFs of the routes or whatever, but like, then you know you're working out your waypoint yourself, and you know if you're old school, you know, fine. But most people, I think it was another question earlier on. Most people use GPS or View Ranger, like View Ranger mainly, like, you know.
Just can you mention any hostels or venues that are central to doing the event?
Hostels or venues, I think I covered that in relation to either Care or Clonmel or even Mitchelstown. You know, like they would be the central places to book something. Hostels, like I said, like Claheen, Ballymacarbery maybe. And I think there's one. I think Sinead said there's one in Cashel. I'm not familiar with them, you know. But like a lot of people use campsites, a lot of people use B&Bs, a lot of people use hotels. It's just a purely personal choice. You know?
And is it possible to obtain GPX without registering, allowing for some prep or trial run?
No. No, it's not. Like if you're familiar with doing challenges or whatever, you'll know that there's lots of challenge routes available on the likes of Mountain Views for downloading, you know. Like if somebody wants to do this, you know, they figure out the route themselves. Like, you know, the GPX routes are indicative. Like that's the important word. Like people, it's from A to B. If you can find an easier way of getting from A to B, that's the way you walk. You know, like on the Comeragh on the Friday, you know, some people take in Knockmealdown Ridge, some people don't. You know, they drop down to the Denard car park. It depends, you know. They just find a way that they like doing it, and that's it.
I think that's all the questions for now. Just want to finish on, this is the first week of the 2021 series for Zooming Around the Mountains, so there might be lots more interesting talks you might want to attend. I'm going to finish up with showing you a video from Cormac Walsh, the Trailblazers hiking group put together, just to give you an overview of the challenge itself. So hopefully the internet will allow us to do that. I just want to say a huge thank you to both Sinead and Jared for a really entertaining evening and interesting evening, and just it sets us all up to aim for a challenge that is definitely worth aiming for. So thanks a million, guys, and I'll just try and see if I can play this video. Give me the thumbs up to see if you can hear it.
Can't see it.
No, can't see it.
Can't see it, Ruth.
Okay, let me see now. I'll try one more time.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?